Good morning, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, and the rest of the world. You've tuned in to the Mac City Morning Show. I am your host, Elliot Pierre, and we're going to start this episode off the same way we start every episode off, with a moment of gratitude. I know you could be doing a million other things with your time, so the fact that you're spending with us truly does mean the world to me, so thank you. On that note, Tanner, hit him with the intro.
How's she cutting me, loves? You're listening to the Mac City Morning Show.
All right, we're back. Today's going to be a fun episode. It always is. I think this gentleman has the record for being on the show the most times at this point. I think this is his third visit.
His the third visit aired.
There we go. And so, anyways, as you guys know, I don't introduce my guests. I let them do that themselves. So on that note, sir, can you please reintroduce yourself to the people at home?
Well, thanks, Elliot and Tanner. It's always a pleasure to come up here. And I guess today I'm here as to be reelected to Ward 1.
Right.
I just finished a couple of terms, and they weren't easy terms. I still want to serve the community. I realized after 5 terms with the Catholic School District and how the province is handling the pandemic, it was best to pass that torch, if you will, and focus on, I think we have a need to carry on what we carried on, I guess, in 13 and 14, to try to right-size our city and get things back to where they were. Yeah. I know that when we started in 13, we lost our way with industry, and we got them back at the table. You know, they were always good supporters, but for some reason, with some outside influence, they seemed to, knocking on the doors, but nobody was listening. So I think there's work to do.
Yeah.
There's some great partners. And you know, serving 8 years on council, I've learned quite a bit about myself. Not always right. You know, need to take more time to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm always been grateful because, I was thinking on my drive this morning, this community's given me everything, family, farm. And I feel like a bit of even though I wasn't born here, but when I left high school and came here, made a lot of good friends. And that's the reason why I'm back here tonight, because I did think over the summer that it was time for me to slip back and probably just have a job there with the chief for now and see how that goes. But after the council meeting, I went over to see Mrs. V and a few other seniors, and they reminded me, in 97, I have a little picture that I shared with you.
Yeah.
My 2 girls, and the nicest woman I've ever met, my mother-in-law, and Steve is gone now. Cancer took him as well, and that's why the pink is on those signs, not just Steve.
Yeah.
I've lost a few, including my mother. And so it didn't look like they felt it was fair to check out. I started to realize that we can go back as a council. And I guess the first thing we need to do is realize our place, and our citizens are our bosses. And obviously we can't be at tusk with administration on every issue. But when I first came to council, I remember my first winter, and for some reason I wasn't out New Year's Eve, new councillor, and the lights and the power was out in Gregoire. And I think it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I figured, we had some people out there need to be looked after. So, called George and Phil at the school districts and asked them if we could use the school if need be, and go around helping ACO and those. But where I came from, there was an org chart that had an on-call person, and I couldn't get a hold of nobody from senior admin at that time, and that was, to make the record straight, that was 2013. And one of the first things I guess we did was we got ourselves on the org chart, because I would think that people, one of our key jobs as a councillor is to keep the city safe. And we're not perfect, but like the Twin Pines, for example, the motion I put forward, it wasn't put forward to tear it down because I didn't like it. It was unsightly, but it was unsafe. We had people living there, and that's part of council's job.
Right.
And I think that we need to go back to our core pillars of protective services, community services, and making sure that we're preparing our residents for tomorrow, because when we take that hit, that 5-to-1 tax ratio, from having incomes of over $1 billion, we're going to be shrunk to over half of that, but we'll still have, the infrastructure to manage and run. And I think that when you sit back and you think about all that, what a great opportunity to join a new mayor,
Yeah.
a new team of councillors, joined by a couple for sure, and Lady J.
Yeah.
Councillor Shroud, I don't think is a secret that, you know what, as much as we lock horns sometimes, I have nothing but respect for Jane, and she knows that. I'll tell you, if Jane could have the streets paved with gold, rural, she would. But what would you expect from a councillor? That's her ward.
Yeah.
And after I got to know Jane, she takes 5 minutes every golf shot, but she cares about her people. At Christmas time, she's on side of me there to make sure people have stuff, you know,
Yeah.
food and stuff. And she's also an elder, you know, so seniors were always good to me. You know, my kids. I remember Mr. Verkel giving my kids their first bikes,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Well, it's a testament to you, Keith. I've got to give you tons of credit. And like you said before, you've done it for 8 years now. You're coming back again. And the last few years in Fort McMurray have not been easy years, to say the least, between the wildfires since you've been on, 2 floods, and now we're dealing with the pandemic. So for you to come back and have that passion about Fort McMurray is really saying something about you and your character, because you don't have to come back if you don't want to.
Well, I certainly don't need a job. I think I have a good job. But you look back at the wildfire, the flood, the pandemic. You know, this community hasn't had a break in about 5 years.
Yeah.
And, we have a lot of people that are taken from our community and not given back.
Right.
That creates angst of us all. You know, we have rural versus urban, or downtown versus up the hill. You know, we need to go back to our roots. And when we have these catastrophic failures, and before we do, there's many good people from industry that can actually help us. We just need to get the relationships back in order and the egos out of the way to springboard those relationships, because there's some awful good talent in this community that can build a dike 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
They can help you out with protective services, human relations, anything, any kind of branding. You know, they are our partners.
Yeah.
And, you know, they actually pay 95% of our tax base.
Right.
Not because I favor them, is at the end of the day, Hero One, they keep Hero One, a chunk of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think our focus got to be, maybe it's the Losh Winter Road, something that we could work with Senator Black on, that we started last May. We have some relationships with the province and the federal government to take some responsibilities and some of those ownerships back.
Right. So I've got a question for you, because you actually, like we've talked about, have experience on council before. With all of these new councillors, there's going to be, the majority are going to be fresh. They're going to be green. Is there any advice that you could give to all the candidates that are running? So when they win, what's it going to look like on day one, when everybody sits around that table?
Well, I know, I'm not going to lie, my first day, I was certainly an unwelcome guy. And I know there's a councillor there, he's not there anymore, but I know that there's a few councillors who could tell you why that happened.
Yeah.
But it's so overwhelming.
Right.
You know, you have literally taken the responsibility of the safety of our citizens. That's number one. And then you have to make sure that you don't get in the weeds of the operation. Council's role is to create governance and bylaws that create a community that people want to call home. They want to feel safe. And we want to make sure that we steward to the bylaws. And if that means in the wintertime, we have to get out of our car and knock on the door and say, hey, you know, it's snow removal day.
Yeah.
And 9 chances out of 10, mom is going to say, hey, I'm just going to take the kids to school. Perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the sense of community we need to get back to. Not have a car on the record halfway up and then say, well, maybe, you know what, we've cut you a deal.
Yeah.
We need to create a community that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And that many people grew up in. You know, years ago, the Buziers over there and the Cardinals, you know, we used to take our families over around that Crescent Heights. The place was beautiful. You know, you drive through, it was almost like winter wonderland, if you will.
Yeah.
And they'd done it for years, you know. And, you know, people get old. And some of those traditions go. But I'd like to see, you know, like maybe the Blueberry Festival come back. everything doesn't have to be a $50 million project.
Correct.
We need to get out of our way, and we have a lot of good people that volunteer in this community. You know, we got a lady that takes pictures, and, you know, keeps us councillors abreast of what's going on. You know, the other thing we'd like to finish is make sure that we're, you know, like I say, we don't get in the weeds, but certainly through Council's Corner that I started in 13. We were soon to find out we had a problem with, you know, with the morale in our city.
Yeah.
And we don't manage that, but we only have one employee that's a CAO, and it's imperative that we work through him or her, and our governance be followed, our notices of motions that are probably not monetary attached, but when it's the will of council,
Yeah.
and there's a motion that's passed, it's only right that it's followed through.
That's right.
And somehow, the last few years, we kind of lost that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, Keith. Well, we're at the part of the show called the Mac City Minute. You've been here before, so you know Tanner's going to hit you up with some questions. Best of luck to you. Tanner, hit him up with the Mac City Minute.
Alrighty. Question number 1 for you. What is your favorite part of being a voice in the community you call home?
Well, my favorite part is to, you know, I'm not going to, it's whether it's A&W to listen to the seniors and what I've done wrong last week, or go to the luncheons and go to, you know, and support the kids in our community or the elders. And, you know, as a councillor, we get to go to Indigenous days, whether it's treaty days or Christmas. I always like being part of council at Christmas.
Yeah.
Because that's what council should be, giving back to the community, you know, and I think that's one of the greatest things of being a councillor when you're part of that.
Question number 2. What is one thing about Fort McMurray that drives you to try and make it better?
Well, you know, Tanner, when I got off the bus, I had nothing, you know, and raised a great family. Never had a house, got a house, you know, never had, you know, always had a dream of having a few old cars, and saved up and got those. And I would say what makes me keep on wanting Fort McMurray is probably where I'm going to retire. I want to be one of those people that maybe has a grandkid that can see some of the dikes or something that we built, or some of the buildings that we put at Caribou Park up north. You know, I look around the community. I guess why I stay, I remember building the interpretive center. I remember landscaping the St. Anne's School and Westwood School. Remember Frankie Richards and Richard McKenzie and those guys get me in the snowmobile. And Ronnie is up in heaven there now, and Nancy and Bobby Howard take me in for Christmases and stuff. So I look around this community. It doesn't matter if it's at Syncrude or Suncor or down south. I got a story for every stop. You know, and I think what I learned this summer, I haven't just got a family. I got a big family.
There you
go. Question number 3. What is the thing you find most fun about being in council?
Well, I get amazed sometimes at what's said, and how it turns out.
Okay.
You know, that's what amazes me, because I think I've been in trouble enough to know that if I tell you something today, it'll be the same story next week.
Right.
So I never had. I don't do well, and I've learned the hard way that not all things are equal. So I think what's funny sometimes is what you hear at 3:00 is not hear what you hear at 7.
Right.
It's the same people talking.
Yeah.
You know, that amazes me.
Yeah.
Question number 4. What is one place in Fort McMurray that you think has always instilled a sense of community within this town?
Well, there's going to be a lot of people hate the answer to that one. I'm going to say 2 places. The Sny, you know, Wap May, Torchy Pete, Tom Weaver, Mr. Weaver, Germains, the Bouziers, you know, the Ludic's, you know, such an indigenous piece, Mac Holland, Fred McDonald and his family, you know, the causeway that they built, you know, and then the 2-piece shooters we put underneath for $20 million. They were supposed to keep the water from leaking, but when I seen that, I figured, well, a lot of work here.
Yeah.
You know, and the second place, I know you're not going to believe it, It seems to me we built the city centre back in 13 before we started council. That didn't work good enough. We blew 20 million.
Yeah.
That's getting scrapped now, and somehow we're building the same thing a block away.
Yeah.
We're all what we need actually. If we took our city building down there on the snow, and we made a boardwalk from that all the way to home hardware.
Yeah.
And you fill that up a little few stand up. Just open it up to the public and have a nice permit system where if you want to sell a hot dog, you can for the kids. I think that's one thing that's lacking.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
Because I don't really see, like people think, why did you go against that park so much? Because I lived through the decision that was made on the whole back of the city center. I mean,
That's right.
stages at the snow, everything's gone. It's wiped out.
That's right.
And don't forget, it might cost about 17 or 18 million as a spend, but don't forget the work that goes into that. So we have some changes, and I don't think we need to spend 100 million to streetscape downtown. Maybe if we had a consistent color in our buildings, we can do that probably through a bylaw.
Yeah.
It doesn't take money to fix all the problems. Like we have a beautiful park up there that I put a motion for. Our councillors supported me, and that's a splash park. And later on in life, I got the chance to put forward Dr. Wong's name because everybody knows Dr. Wong.
KB.
He delivered a lot of kids. So that's what keeps me here. That's what I'm proud of.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of things right.
Yeah.
I got a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
And people invested their time into me. So I'd say you got 8 years into me, my apprenticeship, and now I should be able to work with a brand new people that are independent and there to serve the community.
There you go.
And your final question, what is one thing you've done to help Fort McMurray grow that you're most proud of?
Well, I think I put a few motions forward that expedited the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee. We formed that because I knew there was lots of talent out in the community, and at the same time, we had administration had to fold their hands, keep going. And I guess people ask me about my relationship with the Indigenous people. They're like brothers and sisters because they're the ones that I'm connected to because I see some of their pain because a lot of people from the East Coast had that same pain. And when I drive into Fort McMurray now at Mariana Lakes, it took a bit of convincing. But up on the sign, when I see the teepees, I wanted a nice headdress, but I never got what I wanted. But what I got was this is the land of the Treaty 8 and the unceded Métis territory.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of great chiefs. A lot of people fed me in Fort McCoy and Fort Chip, Conklin, Janvier, Anzac.
Yeah.
I'm connected with them all right because most of them are pretty real.
Yeah.
And I want to also champion that cause.
And those have been your 5 questions.
There we go. Good job, Tanner.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're coming to the end of the show, my man. So before I cut you loose, everybody gets a shameless shout out or plug. So the mic's on you, the camera's on you. Have some fun.
Well, I want to thank you guys for getting engaged. And I want to say something to the candidates.
Yeah.
My first election campaign had 2 signs and a truck. And I used to get up every morning and move the old black truck around.
Right.
And I was working at Ford and Cole, and I had to use a photocopier. But I got to say one thing about this group of candidates. If they're going to work together like we have in this campaign, I think Fort McMurray is in for a nice change, beautiful change. Independent people working for the community, because this had to be the nicest campaign. Even though they had a few old-time politicians trying to trip things up and muddy up the waters, the respect that I seen out there, I know there's a couple of kerfuffles about signs and stuff, but hey, when you ran as many campaigns as I did, you find that you keep your signs to yourself, and never park a sign in front of somebody else's because that's a sign of respect.
Yeah.
And another guy told me that if you put a sign up crooked, you're a crooked person. So I try to keep everything on the level.
Yeah.
But I want to say thanks to all the candidates. The Catholic School District, I had 17 years. I served those kids. Beautiful, beautiful experience. So good luck to those trustees, to the Fort McMurray Public School Board trustees, to all the mayoral candidates and to all the candidates, because once mayor and council is elected, we need to go back and represent from Mariana Lakes to Fort Smith to Fort St. John, everybody in between. They're all our bosses. And we need to make sure that Ottawa and the province remember where Fort McMurray is. Because when we take on these big capital projects and get about equal to a fly on an elephant's behind, we got big money spent on these projects. We have about another $500 million to finish.
Yeah.
So we're going to need a few guys around here that, hey, you might not like Kenny, and we might not like Notley. We might not like this one and that one, but we love Fort McMurray. So whoever's in that place with the checkbook, we got to form a relationship with them. And that's what they call business development.
Yeah.
And Fort McMurray is getting the short end of the stick. But I really like these candidates. And it's how we all work together during this campaign. Brother, I got to tell you, the ladies that I served with over the years, and different boards, a lot of smart people. And I can tell you that this group of candidates has been the nicest campaign that I've ever been. Now, don't get me wrong. There's still 4 days left.
Yeah.
But we're not out of the woods yet. But there's been a very peaceful campaign. Myself and Dogger, as everybody knows, have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, his first Christmas meal at my place. And, you know, me and Lance have a storied relationship. But, you know, the guy lost his dad.
Yeah.
So if anybody thinks Lance is quiet on the campaign, you know what? He lost his dad. So
yeah. There you go. All right. Well, Keith, thank you very much for coming on the show, man. Can't wait to have you back again and again and again. And good luck with the election coming up. Everybody at home, that's been another episode of the Mac City Morning Show. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. It truly does mean the world to me. I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.